Hey, what's up everybody? Brian here. Just wanted to go over a few components that I think are important for vehicle camping. I do it in a truck. People do it in all different sorts of vehicles. I've seen passenger cars, vans, RVs, you name it. People can come up with some pretty creative things. But there are 6 components that if you cover this when you're vehicle camping, whether it's part-time or full-time, you'll make it a comfortable endeavor and it'll be a lot of fun. So let's dive right in. The first component, which I feel is the most important, is your sleeping setup. What I chose to go with was a platform bed in the bed of my truck. I've got an ARE topper here that has an insulation package for cold weather camping. And what that is just basically a liner for both the bed of the truck that's about this thick, and then there's a liner attached to the inside of the topper here. It's like a felt liner. Just basically helps to keep it warmer and keep the cold air at bay when the nights get a little chilly. For the platform bed itself, this is a very simple setup. I chose to go with a basic 2x6 with plywood on top setup. The reason for that is I didn't want to do a complete drawer system because I wanted to have the flexibility to break down the platform bed itself if I needed to utilize the entire interior space in here from floor to top. The drawer system, once it's in there, so you can't like take that out and push it to the side or whatever if you needed to utilize the entire space. I've never had an instance where I need to haul something that big, but if I do run into that instance, you know, I know I have that flexibility. Another thing that's nice about this sort of setup is it's cheap. All the materials that I've used for my platform bed, it's under $50. So I've got just 2 2x6s that are cut to size. The Tacoma has a liner in it where it has these little notches, and so you just lay those 2x6s in there, and then you put your plywood piece on top and you're set. I cut my plywood piece in 2 pieces, so it's 2 halves that make a hole, and then I can just break it down real quick and push it to the side if I need to utilize the entire bed of my truck. For my sleeping itself, I've got a Nemo Salsa 15-degree rated sleeping bag. This is great because it's one of those flexing or sleeping bags that's flexible, so you can actually sit up in this thing while you're still in it and cross your legs and all that stuff. There's plenty of room, but yet it still has the taper like a normal mummy bag, so it doesn't take up a whole lot of space. For my sleeping pad, I have a Sea to Summit sleeping pad. This is an inflatable one. It's 2.5 inches. Well, no, actually, no, I think it's 2 inches, and it has an R value, which is the heat rating value. It's got an R value of 5, which I really like for cold weather camping. I never get chilly from my sleeping pad, so this is a good choice, and it's super comfortable. So my bed is only 5 feet long, but I'm 6 feet tall, so I sleep diagonally in there. But it's really comfortable, and I actually like the cozy space, so it's never really been an issue. It's great to have it, and I enjoy the platform bed. The next component that you need is some sort of cooking station, and I've got 2 ways to cook. I've got a backpacking stove. It's an MSR pocket rocket. You take these little fuel canisters, you screw the stove on top of it. It's got 3 prongs that come out, and then you can set a kettle on there or a skillet, small skillet, or maybe even just like a single-walled metal cup. You can heat up water for like oatmeal, for tea, for coffee, you know, whatever it is you want, and that's nice to have. But when I'm at camp, I want to utilize a full stove, and so what I go with here is I've got the Coleman Triton 2-burner stove. This stove is awesome. It's bulletproof, not literally, but almost. And I've been using it now for over 2 years, and it's never once failed me. It's super easy to clean, and it's easy to set up. It's got these wings on either side, and what these are for, this actually creates a wind block. And that way, if you're camping in somewhere with high wind, it's not really going to affect your cooking performance of your stove. With the backpacking stove, even though it's small and compact, when the wind gets high, it's kind of hard to utilize it because the wind can blow out the flame, or it just pushes the heat over, and then it's not coming up direct underneath your canister that you want to heat up. So this is great for when you're actually, you know, at a campground, or just to have on your tailgate to cook with. They utilize a little 1-gallon propane container, and then you just plug this in on the side here, pump that in, and you're jamming. What I do is I keep the hot pad in the stove here, along with a little scrubber to clean it, and then an extra like cloth napkin just to use when I'm out. I don't want to use paper towels because it just creates too much waste. and I don't like having to deal with trash all the time. So that's that. Cooking station obviously is extremely important. And then what I use is for water storage is I've got this aqua container. This is a 6-gallon container. These things are great. They're really durable. They're BPA free, so there's no leaching that comes off the plastic, so that's nice to use. And then I also have a cooler. I use the Yeti 20 liter. They call this the Roadie. This thing's awesome. It's a cooler, but it also doubles as like a place to sit because it's just about this high off the ground. So if I don't want to pull out my camp chair, or if I'm just wanting something quick to do, I'll pull this out, open it up, get the food out that I need, get my stove going, and then I can utilize my tailgate as my desk, and then I can just sit on my cooler here, and that's nice to have as a little seat. Or, you know, it's an extra seat if I have somebody come visit a camp. Let me put this back in real quick. So the third component, which is vital to camping, is a hygiene station. And the hygiene station that I use is I'll have this little camp suds container. What I'll do is I'll put about this much camp suds concentrated soap in here, and then I'll fill the rest up with water. And then you can just shake this up, and it creates like a sudsy water that you can use to wash your hands, or, you know, clean off your stove right after you get done cooking, or whatever it is you need. One thing about hygiene is that if you keep your hands clean while you're vehicle camping, then you're not going to get all your gear dirty. I found that out the hard way. I'd always sit there and be like, man, why is my gear just getting so dirty all the time? And it's because my hands were a mess. I'd be working with the fire and you get like ashy stuff all over it. Well, it just makes sense. If you're, you know, touching your clothes or touching your gear, that's going to get really dirty as well. So one way to keep everything clean is to keep your hands clean, and to have soapy water on demand is real nice to have. So that's a little hack that I use. Another thing that I have is I've got on my roof rack, I have a road shower. This is a 5-gallon metal canister that you can pressurize with a bike hose, and then it has this little nozzle here that you can create like a misting stream, or you can have like a real direct stream for showering, for washing off gear. I've also utilized it to wash off my dog after she gets into mud if we go hiking. So this is extremely useful. It heats up in the summertime. You can actually get the water up to about 108 degrees in direct sunlight. I've found that it gets warmer if you're in warmer climates, but in Colorado, when the temperatures stay around 75 to 80 per day, I can get cold creek water that's 40 degrees up to about 104 within 2 hours if it's in direct sun. So that's really great to have. It's awesome to have a warm shower at camp, especially after like hiking or something like that, or just before you go to bed. And I utilize that quite often. So that's the hygiene that I utilize, hygiene station stuff that I've got. The fourth component is you want to have a place for storage. Now I've got 2 storage bins. I've got one storage bin for clothes and the other for gear. And they're right underneath here. So let me pull this out and I'll show you what I utilize. So I've got my clothes here. Just you know, the plastic bins that you can buy anywhere. You can buy them at Walmart. They're cheap. They got little rollers on them, so they come in and out real easy. And then on this side, I've got all of my gear. Now everything that I need for truck camping, as far as gear is concerned, is in this little tote bag. So one thing about being on the road full time is that you become a minimalist by default, because you don't want to carry around a bunch of crap you're not using. So you pare down all your gear to just the basic essentials, and then you realize you're like, man, I'm just as comfortable as I was when I carried around a bunch of stuff with me. So why not just minimize everything, and then that way I don't have to sort through a bunch of stuff every time I get to camp to try to figure out what I need. So, you know, that's one really great byproduct of this lifestyle that I didn't anticipate, is becoming a minimalist has been really freeing. When you have less stuff, you actually have more flexibility to do things. And I don't know, I think more people should go on the road full time to experience that, because it's kind of an eye-opener. So that's what I use for storage, real simple. And then the fifth thing, and one of the more important features or components for vehicle camping, is you got to figure out some sort of power solution. Some people use solar power. They use a secondary battery system. I have right now, I've got a 400 watt inverter in the back of my truck with a power strip that I can utilize to power stuff. The drawback to that is you have to have your vehicle running in order for the inverter to work. because you don't want to drain your battery of your truck just having your your battery on without it actually running. But I drive around a bunch. I usually switch locations about every 2 days. So when I drive to a new location, I'll put all my electronics in the back and then power them up. So like I said, just a simple power strip. It plugs right into the back here. This came standard in my, well, that was an option in my Tacoma, for the sport Tacoma that I have. And this is great. I mean, it works for me. I'll probably get a secondary battery system eventually, because I want to put up a lighting system around the roof rack of my truck for security purposes when I'm at camp. But for right now, you know, it's good to go. So those are the 5 components that I think are important. Now the 6th component is kind of more like what I call quick grab gear. There's gear that I think is essential to vehicle camping, especially if you're going to be, you know, kind of out in the boonies somewhere, if you're going to camp on public land as opposed to like a campground. Campgrounds usually have lights and stuff like that, so when you pull up at night, it's not an issue. But for me, I love to four-wheel back into like really remote locations, and there's no lighting back there. And so, you know, you want to have these quick grab things available just to help out. So with the lighting solution, you know, any sort of standard headlamp is fantastic to have. I use rechargeable batteries, which I charge up with the inverter when I'm running around. So that's a nice one to use. Also too, I have a GPS unit. I use the DeLorme, well now it's Garmin because Garmin purchased DeLorme, but I use the InReach Explorer. This thing's fantastic. You can two-way text anywhere in the world. And when I text someone, like my folks or my brothers or friends, it has a little link at the bottom that shows my exact location so they know exactly where I'm at. So I can be like, hey, what's up guys, just got to camp, here's where I'm located, and that way they can contact me and I can be in touch with folks even if I'm off grid and out of cell phone range, because I don't have a cell phone. I canceled my cell phone about 6 months ago. So I just utilize this for staying in touch with people. And then other quick grab gear, I'll utilize, I like to have leather gloves available. That's great for processing firewood. Also use a multi-tool. I've got the Leatherman 300 Super Tool. This thing's awesome. It's got a bunch of different stuff in it, from knives to screwdrivers to files, you name it. And then other things that I'll use is I've got a Gerber outdoorsman axe, and I'll put this right here when I pack up. That's great for processing and chopping big pieces of wood. And then when you want to break it down even more, I use an East Wing hatchet. Hatchets are extremely useful. I probably use this the most out of all the tools that I have, even more so than my multi-tool, because I'm always chopping wood and processing wood to make a fire. And I don't use fire starters. I think that's kind of a waste of money, so I make my own fire starters by using just a cotton ball and petroleum jelly. And then you take the petroleum jelly and you work it into the cotton ball and spread it out a little bit. And then you place that underneath your tinder bundle, which you can utilize a hatchet to really break down wood. And then, you know, you get that going, you light that, and it stays lit for like 5 minutes, and so you can pretty much get your fire going. I can't stand, you know, messing with the fire nonstop for 10 or 15 minutes to try to get it going. So I'll spend a lot of time using my hatchet or you know, the outdoorsman axe, breaking down wood. That way I can build a tinder bundle that has small pieces of wood with larger pieces on top, you know, and I'll put larger pieces on top of that, larger pieces, and then big pieces of wood. That way I light it and I walk away from it and do other things at camp, and the fire just gets going in and of itself. I don't have to babysit it, so that's nice. Another thing you want is a shovel. This is really, really, really useful. I just started carrying a shovel about a year ago, and I wish I would have had it initially when I first got on the road. It's just, you run into stuff to where you need a shovel. It's great for putting out a fire, because you can just you know, dig down in the soil, throw it on the fire if there's any coals going, because you never ever want to abandon camp with a fire that still has hot coals. That's how forest fires get started. So I'd recommend a shovel for sure. And then the last thing is just you know, a simple camp chair. And you can take this and put it right here, and then when you're done, you know, when you get to camp, you just drop your tailgate, grab your quick item gear, set up, and you're good to go. So those are the 6 different components. Real quick, we'll run through them one more time. You want to have a sleeping setup, you want to have a cooking setup, you want to go ahead and have a hygiene station, you want to have storage, and then you also want to have the power setup, and then the quick grab. So that's all 6 right there. So that's what I found. It makes truck camping or vehicle camping really comfortable. If you get on the road full time, just be prepared that you'll be tweaking your setup you know, just figure out what works best for you. But once you get it dialed in, it makes it really efficient and really fun. And I just recommend everybody to minimize all your gear. Only carry what you need, because you don't want to have all of your storage space or any open space just cluttered with a bunch of gear, because it'll drive you crazy. So minimize all of your stuff and utilize those 6 components when thinking about hitting the road, either part-time or full-time, and it'll be awesome. You'll have a good time. So thanks for watching, and shoot me a comment below in the comment section if you have any questions, and I'll do my best to answer it for you. Thanks.